You clock out at 5, same badge as Tyler, same year you both started, same number on the paycheck. He walks to a truck he is still financing 6 years later. You walk to a car you paid off in cash 4 years ago and never think about again. Nobody claps for either decision. Nobody even notices. There's a number inside your spending you have never once added up, and it has nothing to do with your rent. I call it the leak inventory, and it does not care how much you earn. It only cares what you do with what is left over, every single day, for years. Stay through this, because by the fourth habit, you will know exactly which side of that number you are standing on right now, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. That recognition alone is worth more than anything I could ever ask you to click. This is not a story about luck, or a better job, or one lucky investment. Tyler and Rachel started at the same distribution center outside Columbus in the same month, hired for the same role, paid the same hourly rate. 22 years later, when that center finally closed for good, Rachel walked away with $138,000 sitting in savings and retirement accounts. Tyler walked away with $7,400 in credit card debt and no plan for what came next. Same income every single year, same 22 years, completely different outcomes. Picture an ordinary Tuesday, 12 years into that stretch, because this is the version that actually explains everything. Tyler wakes up, grabs coffee from the drive-thru on his way in, orders lunch from his phone before he has even parked, and stops at the store on the way home for whatever looks good that night. Rachel wakes up 15 minutes earlier, pours coffee she already made, eats the lunch she packed the night before, and drives straight home. Neither one of them thinks about any of it. It does not feel like a financial decision on either side. It feels like Tuesday. That is exactly why it works the way it works, for both of them, for 22 straight years. Here is the part that should actually bother you. The math behind a gap like that is almost never one bad decision. Nobody goes broke from a single purchase. What actually happens is smaller and quieter than that, and it happens on a Tuesday, not during some dramatic financial collapse. A household earning around $60,000 a year moves close to $1.3 million through its hands over a 22-year stretch. Almost none of that gets tracked day to day. It just moves through, and wherever it ends up, it ends up. That untracked part, the part you never notice leaving, is the leak inventory. It is not one hole. It is closer to 10 small ones, and every single one of them feels far too minor to be worth thinking about on its own. Start with the one that costs the most and gets defended the hardest. The average new vehicle payment right now runs around $750 a month. That is close to $9,000 a year, financed against something that loses roughly a quarter of its value in the first 12 months alone. Tyler leased a new truck the year they were both hired, and again every 4 years after that, like clockwork, because a new truck in the parking lot felt like proof he was doing well. Rachel bought a 5-year-old sedan with cash, drove it for 11 years past the point most people would have traded it in, then bought another one the exact same way. Over 22 years, that single habit alone is worth more than $80,000 of the gap between them, and neither of them ever once called it an investment decision. It just felt like what you do once you finally have a real job. A payment that size does more than drain an account every month. It quietly removes your ability to say no to a bad manager, because you need every one of those paychecks just to keep the truck in the driveway. If this is already making sense to you, a like helps this reach someone who is currently financing a car they cannot actually afford. The second leak is quieter, and it shows up 3 times a day instead of once a month. Tyler bought lunch most days, coffee every morning from the same drive-thru, and whatever looked good at the gas station on the drive home. Rachel packed a lunch the night before, made coffee at home in under 3 minutes, and kept a short list of 5 meals she rotated through the week without ever thinking about it again. The difference between those two patterns runs between $3,000 and $5,000 a year, every single year, for 22 years straight. Invested instead of spent, that gap alone is worth more than $100,000 by the time that plant finally closes. Underneath that same habit sits a third leak almost nobody counts. because it does not feel like spending at all. It is what gets thrown away. The average household tosses out somewhere close to a third of the food it buys, the milk that expires untouched, the vegetables softening in the back of the crisper, the leftovers nobody ever gets around to eating. For a typical household, that alone is close to $1,500 a year, thrown straight into the trash, not spent on anything, just wasted. Rachel built her 5 meals around whatever was already sitting in the pantry before she let herself buy anything new. Tyler shopped the same way every week, regardless of what was already at home. That is not a character flaw. Grocery stores are built to make a full cart feel like abundance, even when half of it goes straight in the garbage. Bulk discounts exist specifically to push you past what you will actually use, and a full cart at checkout feels like a win, right up until the back of the refrigerator quietly tells the truth 2 weeks later. There is a fourth leak that has nothing to do with what people buy and everything to do with how easy buying has quietly become. Rachel deleted her saved card information from every shopping site years ago and still shops mostly in person. Tyler has one-click checkout everywhere and admits he stopped noticing what things cost before they even arrive at his door. That is not carelessness. Every company selling things online has a stated goal of removing friction between you seeing something and you owning it. The friction was never the annoying part. The friction was the only thing protecting the money. Remove enough of it, and spending stops feeling like a decision at all. It just feels like a reflex, and reflexes never once ask whether you can actually afford them. There is a version of the exact same idea in almost anything you buy, built to last instead of just built to look new. Paying more upfront for something made to survive 10 years instead of 1. I call that the boring premium, and it is the same trade every single time. Less flash today for far less replacement cost later. Rachel owns maybe 30 pieces of clothing total, all of it plain, all of it built well, worn for years. Tyler replaces most of his closet every season and could not tell you what any single piece cost him individually. Neither one of them thinks about it as a financial decision. It is just what feels normal to each of them by now. There is a fifth leak that hides better than any of the others, because it never once shows up as a single purchase. It shows up as a list of small recurring charges nobody sits down and reviews. Streaming services stacked on top of each other, an app subscription started for a free trial and never canceled, a membership paid for out of guilt more than actual use. On their own, each one looks too small to matter. $5 here, $12 there. Added together across a year, that quiet list regularly runs past $600 for a household that has never once canceled anything on purpose. Rachel reviews hers twice a year, every year, on a set date, and cancels anything she has not used since the last review. Tyler has never once reviewed his. He genuinely does not know what he is currently paying for, and that not knowing is the entire leak. Somewhere underneath all 5 of these sits the real mechanism, and it is worth naming out loud, because once you see it, you cannot pretend you did not. Economists have a term for spending that exists mainly to be seen, going back over a century to a man named Thorstein Veblen. He called it conspicuous consumption, and it is the reason a truck payment feels completely different from a savings transfer, even when the second one builds far more over time. Nobody throws a party because you left money sitting quietly in an index fund. People notice the truck in the driveway. That is the whole mechanism, and it did not start with Tyler or with you. You are not bad with money. You are responding, completely normally, to a system built to reward whatever shows and to ignore whatever compounds in silence. There is one specific moment worth slowing down on, because it is the moment that actually decides everything else. Both of them got a real raise in year 9, the same year, almost the same amount. Tyler moved apartments within a month, upgraded the truck within the year, and told everyone at the plant about both. Rachel changed nothing for 2 full years. She kept the same apartment, kept driving the same paid-off sedan, and quietly moved the entire raise into an account she barely mentioned to anyone. Neither decision felt dramatic in the moment. One of them just happened to compound, and the other one just happened to disappear. If you have your own version of Tyler and Rachel somewhere in your life, Two people, same paycheck, completely different outcome. I would actually like to read about it in the comments. Here is what almost nobody mentions about the quiet side of any of this. It is not only about ending up with more money later, although that part is real. Rachel negotiated harder for a better shift years before the layoff, because she never needed that job the exact way Tyler needed his. She could afford to say no to a bad manager. She could afford 8 months without income while she figured out the next move, because what I call her option count was high enough to change how every hard conversation in her life actually went. Tyler's option count sat close to 0 the entire time, without him ever realizing it. Looking successful and being able to walk away from a bad situation turned out to be opposites, not the same thing at all. There is a second, quieter benefit that almost never gets mentioned. Rachel's friendships tended to stay honest because nobody around her was performing a lifestyle they could not actually afford. Tyler spent years surrounded by people comparing trucks and vacations, never quite sure who was doing fine and who was one missed paycheck away from trouble. Money that stays quiet tends to attract people who are not extracting anything from you. Money that gets displayed tends to attract exactly the opposite. So here is the protocol, and it is deliberately boring because boring is what actually works, every single time, without exception. Step 1. Buy the reliable used version of whatever you were about to finance new, and let someone else absorb the value it loses in year 1. Step 2. Pick 4 or 5 meals you genuinely like and rotate them, so grocery shopping stops being a daily decision you have to make from scratch. Step 3. Before you buy anything new at the store, look at what is already in your kitchen and build around that first. Step 4. Before your paycheck even touches your checking account, move a fixed amount automatically into savings, the same day, every time, so the money is gone before you can talk yourself out of it. That single habit alone, done automatically instead of manually, has been shown to leave people with over 70% more after 10 years. Step 5. When a raise arrives, change nothing about your spending for 2 full years and let the entire difference move straight into that automatic transfer. Step 6. Delete your saved payment information from at least the 3 sites you shop most and put a real waiting period on anything over $50. Step 7. Find one thing you already do for free that someone else would pay for, and let it earn even a small amount on the side, because a single extra income source changes everything about how exposed you are if one paycheck ever disappears. None of these 7 steps require more income to start. They only require noticing what was already there. If you know someone who just got a raise and is about to let all of it disappear into a bigger apartment or a nicer truck, this is the one worth sending them before that happens, not after. If any of this is making you rethink one specific purchase you already made this month, that is exactly the point, not a reason to feel behind. A lot of the people who end up ahead simply started noticing one leak earlier than the people around them ever did. Add every one of those together, the truck, the lunches, the wasted groceries, the subscriptions nobody ever reviewed, the raise that either compounded or quietly disappeared, and by year 22, the gap between Tyler and Rachel was never actually a mystery. It came out somewhere close to $150,000, and almost none of it traces back to one big decision, either of them made on purpose. It came from roughly 10 small ones, repeated something like 8,000 times, without either of them ever counting. By the time that distribution center finally closed, Rachel had already quietly built what she called her month count, enough saved to go nearly a full year without a single paycheck if she ever had to. Tyler found out what his own month count actually was on the exact day he needed it most, and it was 0. Same badge, same 22 years. The gap between them was never the paycheck. It was 10 boring choices, repeated so often for so long that neither of them ever thought to call them choices at all. If this changed how you think about even one habit you already have, subscribing keeps the next breakdown like this one coming to you directly, every week. This channel exists for exactly this, the boring math nobody ever puts on a highlight reel. No hype, no hot stock picks, no secret formula, just the accounting behind the people who quietly end up fine, one boring Tuesday at a time.